Everybody, Ben for the Better Podcast, and we're going to have a quick 2025 Sci-Fi Wargaming retrospective. Every year, a ton of cool stuff comes out in the world of wargaming, and we can't cover it all, we can't even play it all. But there were definitely a few things that dropped this year that really got my attention, and that I see people playing or buying or building or talking about. So I've put together a list of a few things that landed in 2025, my top picks for big releases in 2025. That we can look back and go, okay, that was cool, and it's stuck around. Okay, so Games Workshop are going to feature very Games Workshop aren't going to feature a huge amount on this list. Yeah, 40k is still going. Yeah, Necromunda's still coming out with some cool stuff. But nothing there was that key. Nothing there was absolutely groundbreaking. Necromunda being one of the best Games Workshop games kicking around. They get cool releases, but nothing massively changed. Nothing was massively influential. 40k is obviously the biggest game in wargaming, but hey, 11th edition is next year, so this year was very much just stuff, more stuff. Now, one thing they did drop, and it would be remiss of me to not talk about this, even if it wasn't the the best thing, the best release that they could have done. So Warhammer the Horus Heresy got their, what was it, 3rd edition this year? They dropped it with a fantastic cinematic intro. They came out with, to be fair, like some really good models. Like there's not too much that you can do with Space Marines, but they found a way to resurrect the old Saturnine style of Terminator, bring them back, introduce a really cool new Dreadnought, and they really just hammered home Horus Heresy in a load of ways. So we're going to give them points this year for a big release. We're going to give them points for a really good attempt. But from my understanding, is that the edition is less good. A lot of bad things happened, and even though they tried to do a really cool community release, it got scuppered by some major leaks. So even though the new edition hasn't been received brilliantly, it's a lot of cool stuff to introduce, and they did a really good job of putting together alternate Space Marine things. So if you're a 40k fan, if you do, I mean, I'm like, oh wow, I actually really like the idea of painting up some Saturnine stuff. Like, this looks really cool. It does look really cool, but and I'm sure there are people out there that absolutely love the Horus Heresy. It is not for me. I thought it might have been for me, and then it landed and went a bit flat. But I thought I'd better talk about it. But we're here to talk about stuff that's new, stuff that's cool, stuff that you can go into your local game shop and see people playing and see people being really excited by. And the first one I've got on this list is Konflikt 47. So this is not a new game, but they came out with, I think, a new edition this year with a bunch of cool new models, and it has landed absolutely brilliantly. So basically, this is an alternative World War II game produced by Warlord Gaming, and the rules are based off Bolt Action, which is probably the best World War II miniature war game around. There's also Flames of War, but Flames of War is 15 mil scale. Bolt Action is kind of like your 40k level, but in World War II, and they've got a really interesting alternating activation method, which is you all put dice in a bag, and then every single activation is picked at random. So maybe it'll be yours, maybe it'll be someone else's. It's a really prominent mechanic. I have mixed feelings about that mechanic, but actually I think what it does do is create a really cool dynamic game and a really good bit of storytelling where actually you can kind of swing one way or another, and I think that does land really well. Now, this game has caught my eye. Not so much that I've jumped into it, but I know that our local gaming shop, they've gone in hard, and there's loads of people now picking up Konflikt 47, which makes it really tempting. So as we kind of flick through the page, you can see some of the great units, and these are some of the things that kind of get me really intrigued, right? Who doesn't love World War II? If you're a miniature wargamer, then I'm sure there's a part of you or a part of your history where you've gone, oh man, I'd love to paint up a Tiger tank, or yeah, Shermans, they're wicked. And now you've got basically World War II stuff with werewolves, with lasers, with mechs, and as you can see in this picture here, some US airborne troops with jetpacks. Now, this is just fantastic. It's kind of got that Hellboy vibe where it's alternate universe stuff. Basically, in this world, they've uncovered some rift technology, which means they can soup up stuff, and they have big mechs like this dude here. And I am super impressed with all of the models. Now, some of the models are older. So when I was talking to the guys at the local games shop, some of them are like, some of the resin metal stuff is not the best, but the newer stuff is really, really, really cool. So you've got the US, you've got the Axis, so they've got the kind of like the mini mech guys, you've got the jump troops. It's just all very, very, very cool and very, very alternate. And there's a bunch of different armies. So the US, we kind of see them. They've got jump packs. They've got the mech guys. The Soviet bloc, I think these are the ones that have got like werewolves or like gene enhanced people as well, which is pretty cool. You've got the Axis. No, they've got the gene enhanced people. I think there's just gene enhanced people everywhere. Empire of Japan, which I think is brand new. And then you've got the British, who've got little Wallace and Gromit robots, which is quite cool. Some of their stuff is really cool. But they've got a really good blend of knowing exactly how to make models, because they've been doing the World War II stuff for ages. And the World War II stuff, I mean, what's the difference between World War II and Konflikt 47? 2 years. So there's a lot of tech that kind of carries over. So there's a ton of cool stuff. There's a ton of good lore. There's a ton of great models. And they've done a really good job supporting it. So I think this year, one of my top picks for releases is Konflikt 47. And we're sticking around that kind of militaristic vibe because we are sticking with Trench Crusade. Now, Trench Crusade absolutely positively was out before 2025. It got the big hype. I think the Kickstarter was, I don't know, maybe it was 2024, the end of 2024. But obviously they garnered a ton of interest. Now, one of the things they have done this year that has made quite a big difference to a lot of the player base, which is they've produced plastic kits, or at least they're starting to produce plastic kits. Now, there's two sides to this coin. On the one hand, being able to go into your friendly local gaming shop or browsing the website for Entoyment or something and seeing Trench Crusade plastics that you can buy from your local gaming shop, that makes that game seem so real. Like, this is now a thing you can go into a shop and buy. They get absolute points for that, and it's really noteworthy thing. And they've got, another 3 or 4 kits pending for February, March time, which is just kind of like, okay, this game is here, and this game is going to stick around. And it's going to stick around with, quite frankly, some very, very, very beautiful models and a lot of really interesting lore. So can you zoom in on that? You can't zoom in on that. That's a shame. So enhance. There we go. You got this dark elf looking guy. Like, these models are very, very, very cool. Now, the other side of the coin is that they are no longer going to be producing any more STLs, which is interesting because obviously this kickstarted and every force came with all the STLs you wanted to use. It hasn't moved away from the fact that it's about kit bashing. It's about using proxy models. It's about playing the game that they've built in the world that they've built, not just buying the models that they sell. But they're moving away from the STLs. So those people who jumped in because they're like, oh, wow, we've got basically a top tier game that is backed entirely from STLs for the most part. Now it is, okay, all the new releases are going to be plastic kits, which has created a bit of a feels bad. Now, I personally didn't jump into Trench Crusade. I was very intrigued by it. We've got a few of our gaming club that have gone into it, and because of that, I've been printing some trenches. But the plastic kit got me really interested. It got me really interested to the point where I'm like, okay, this is something I need to pay attention to now because this is proper. And the fact they've got more plastic kits coming is really good too. And the old Trench Titan guys have done a really good job showing off some games on their channel too. So it's got me watching them and Miniature Game Montage. Watched it. The mechanics look great. The lore's really interesting, very gribbly. And the models, whether they're STL or plastic, are very cool. So the fact that it's sticking around, very much enjoy that. And top tier plastic models in a game shop near you, it's a real thing. And talking of real things, a thing we all dreamed of is a really good epic game. An epic scale game. Because Games Workshop used to produce Epic at a very small scale, and it was really good fun, and then it kind of went away, and then they brought it back with Legions Imperialis, and thought it'd be a really good idea to roll a dice for every single stand when you have like 20 in a unit. Anyway, yeah, challenging system to love, that one. But Mantic have also done a very similar thing. So this year we saw Epic Warpath. Now, I think the Kickstarter was last year, but this stuff landed this year. It went retail this year, and they are producing more and more stuff. So even though I guess this Kickstarter was the year before, I'm counting this as a 2025 release because that's when we got the models. And there are so many models. It's a really interesting system because it is epic scale, and they've got all the starter boxes. They've got 4 factions that you can buy stuff for at the moment. And there's 4 more factions coming early next year, and then in the summer next year there's expansions for all of those 8 factions. And no matter what you kind of like, you're pretty much covered, because even in the starter set you've got Plague, which are like plague-ridden mutated humans, kind of think a little bit Gene Stealer culty, a little bit Nurgly. It's that kind of vibe, versus what they call Enforcers, which is the Mantic version of Space Marines, essentially. The lore of Mantic sci-fi stuff is really, really, really cool. So the fact you've got this plague stuff that it spreads around worlds, kind of like the Flood from Halo, and the Enforcers and the GPCS have to lock it down and stop the plague from spread. It's really, really, really cool. But in the game already, you've got the plague guys, which are kind of humans mixed with monsters. Then you've got the Space Marine guys, the Enforcers, who've got the Terminator style guys, and then they've got some fast infantry and some light spec stuff. You've got walkers, and that's just in the main set. Then you've got the armored space dwarves. You've got the Asterians, which are definitely not space elves. They're space elves, but they use marionettes, so they kind of sit somewhere safely and project their consciousness into these drones, which makes a lot of sense. So those are the first 4. Then you've got the Ratmen, so obviously I was well on board with that, and I've got my Ratmen guys over there being painted up. They got Ratmen, they got the Nameless, which are like this weird conglomerate of gribbly-wibbly aliens, so if you're a Tyrannid kind of guy, that's your bag. There's the Orcs, we're called the Orc Marauders, and they are very much orcs. So if you're thinking of orcs, they're kind of orcs, but more 2nd edition orcs, where orcs are a bit more military than thuggish. Definitely quite a cool vibe. And the last army that they've done is called the GCPS, which is basically the Imperial Guard. So there's 8 different factions that are all out. The rules are all in the rulebook, and because the way Mantic works, it's all on the companion app as well. So you can build your forces and get the rules and all this kind of stuff. But the thing for me that is really, really, really cool about Epic Warpath, let's see if we've got anything on the shop. Can we see Epic Warpath? Let's see if we can just go and have a look at one of the factions. Potentially not. Let's go to Asterians. Right. The army boxes are absolutely massive. And you get, like, this game plays from 1,000 points is a small game, 1,500 points is a small to medium game, 2,000 points to kind of 3,000 points is a full-on standard game. If you're a Warhammer player, 2,000 points Warhammer is about 3,000 points for Epic Warpath. So if you're playing a 1,500 point game for Warpath, you're kind of playing like 1,000 point 40k, 1,000 point fantasy battle game. That's that kind of thing. The box comes with just an absolute ton. Like, I got the Vermin guys, and I started brewing up 1 unit of each. It gets to like 1,500 points before you even know it, and you get so many troops in the box. One starter kit gives you an absolute ton of stuff, and then you can just add more, because not only have they got the starter sets, which are very cool because it comes with a whole bunch of gribbly wibblies, but you've got the STL sets as well, or at least the reinforcement packs, and every force has got this, and these are all available on STLs as well, so you can print more units for it, or you can buy more units for it. So they've got it's incredibly accessible. You get all of the troops you need, but it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. I'm super impressed with it, and hoping we can show it off on this channel soon-ish would be really, really, really cool. So yes, I could not move on without saying the epicness of Epic Warpath. And we'll stick around with Mantic for just a second, because I could not move on without talking about Halo Flashpoint. Now, Halo's been a big flash, and you will probably see it at most gaming conventions, and the box is probably on the shelf in most friendly local gaming shops, because it is a super accessible way to get into miniature wargaming. We don't have that these days, not really. Like, 40k Kill Team is an interesting one, but the price is really high, but you get some cool models, but it's quite restrictive. Kill Team, good game, but not really the best on boarding practice, and obviously getting into 40k or something is quite a chonky challenge. Whereas Halo is, you pick up a box of dudes and you're pretty much good to go. You got a starter set, that 100 quid that comes with a bunch of models, and the terrain and everything you need to run multiple games. Like, it's really well done. So as an entry-level product, it's really perfect. And Ronnie, when we had him on the Fantasy channel to talk through some stuff, mentioned about the fact that Halo was like the thing that he wanted to exist so that parents who've got kids who grew up with video games and they wargame, it's kind of like, okay, do you want to play a Halo miniature game? That's quite cool. It's like a 3D board game that we can play together that's based in the universe you love. Step 1, get them to play it. Step 2, get them to paint it. Step 3, be poor forever because they are now a miniature wargamer. And that is very, very cool. So even though Flashpoint didn't come out this year, they have just dropped 2 really big expansions. And the first one was the Defiance expansion. I thought it was called something different. But this is where you've got the big old chunky boys, and then it was the ODST expansion that's just coming out now. Okay, it's coming out in February, so it doesn't quite qualify for the 2025, but it's, again, another really big thing where it's kind of like an excellent additional product. They're doing a really good job kind of milking Halo and using it to grow the wargame sphere. So, again, 10 points to Gryffindor. All right, so Halo is a new game. You've got Epic Warpath, which is a new game. You've got Konflikt 47, which is kind of having a resurgence. Then there's Battletech. Now, Battletech did 2 things this year that were really, really, really cool. One was Battletech Gothic, where they created this alternative universe, dropped a box with some really interesting models in, and then immediately said, that's all we're doing for it, so don't worry about it, which it basically made this box a starter set for Battletech, but with different models, except it's a starter set for core Battletech. There's some cool Battletech Gothic stuff, but as soon as you kind of say, this is all that you're getting, we're not doing any more models for it, maybe we will in the future, but not likely for now, it becomes a really interesting sort of like one-box game, which is not the best, I think, for a game like Battletech, which thrives on the fact that Battletech has 40 years worth of stuff to play with. Now, Battletech Gothic seemed like a really cool thing to get into that universe. Like, okay, there's all this stuff going on over there, but this is slightly different, so there's none of the baggage. And it would have been cool if they were like, right, every 6 months we're going to introduce a little Battletech Gothic expansion or something like that, because then people could get it, play it for 6 months, pick up the expansion and keep playing in that Battletech Gothic universe as a really good onboarding ramp. Not what they did, bit of a shame, but one thing they've dropped instead, or alongside, that is a genuine piece of brilliance. It is Battletech Aces. Now, Battletech Aces is an AI solo/co-op version of Battletech Alpha Strike. Now, Battletech old school is hex-based and you've got a lot of paperwork. It's accountancy mixed with warfare, which I actually worryingly find quite cool. I'm a big spreadsheet guy. But Alpha Strike is more of a miniatures game, so it's sort of a bit lighter. You don't have the hexes, you just have movement, so it's actual like miniatures game. So what they've done is they've produced this box set that comes with some great miniatures. So it's actually an interesting way to, I want to say, get into Battletech, but you will need some other stuff to get into it first. But what it does is it produces a solo and co-op card system, along with all basically the villains that you will fight against, and a really cool narrative campaign. So this actually has made me want to play Battletech more than Battletech Gothic. Now, Battletech Gothic, I love the idea of getting in on the ground floor of a new place to play in Battletech, but this means that you can get into Battletech and work with your friends and learn Battletech together, even if it's Alpha Strike, which is not full-on Battletech, it's like Battletech Lite. That I find exceedingly entertaining and just like a really cool thing. I've watched a couple of playthroughs of Aces 2 and it looks really good. And I think it's been designed by the person who did the kind of like the AI stuff for X-Wing. So yeah, really, really, really cool. Definitely on my, we'll pick this up at some point and give it a go list, because Battletech has always just hovered there as like that would be cool to get into. And this year, you've got the Gothic avenue and you've got the solo co-op avenue, and I think that's excellent. Okay, so a couple more to go through and then we're done. So Dystopian Wars version 4 dropped this year. Now, one thing that's really interesting about this is, well, first of all, it's version 4, so it's been around a while. They kind of redesigned it to the point where they made it faster. They tried to make it easier for people to get into, which I massively appreciate. And again, we've just talked about that with Battletech, right? Find me a way, let me get into this game in a really easy manner, and I'm on board. And they did that. So the new rules look really good. They've done a really good job kind of simplifying the system. And then they didn't do one thing that I really thought they would have done. And if they'd done this thing, I probably would already have it. They didn't produce a starter set. And it's a bit of a strange one, but I think they've actually been quite clever about this. They kind of get that their audience has already got everything. So you've kind of got two angles when producing a new version of a game, right? You produce a starter set that has two new armies in it, or that's all new models, right? So we've just seen this with Kings of War 4. One brand new army and another that's got all brand new kits basically for an old army. So if you want, if you're a Trident Realms guy, cool new models. If you're a Zakari guy, cool new models. When it comes to Dystopian Wars, they didn't produce a starter set because they've kind of said, look, what we want you to do is just use the models that we already sell, buy the models that we already sell, but here's a better way to use them. But what they're doing now, and this is the point where I'm slightly getting on board, is they've produced these starter sets. Now, the Crown starter set is already out. They dropped this when I think they actually dropped the new version of the book. £50, and you get the rulebook, you get the tokens, you get the movement stuff, you get the dice, and you get a starter fleet of 3 big ships, 3 medium, 4 big ships. Ooh, that's even better. Fantastic. Now, I've got this on order at the moment, so I'm very excited for this to land and for me to paint it up, because the reason I'm very excited about this is they've just announced a second starter set, and that's when I think the game starts cooking, is because then you can buddy up with a friend, you both pick up a starter set, and the game starts to begin. So they've dropped the Empire starter set, which is going to come out in a couple of months' time. So it's going to be Crown, the first one, and then Empire, the second one, which gives you 2 different ways to onboard. Worst thing in the world is for 2 people to pick up the same starter set, really. It's not the best. Now, you can buy the rulebook and the dice and everything separately, but having a signposted begin here is so important for growing that base. But I actually think what they've done is really clever. They said, right, everybody who's already playing, or everyone who's been put off by playing the last few years, we've refreshed the edition, start playing. If you've got a friend that wants to start, but you already know the game, here's a Crown starter set, you can start them there. Now we're going to get this into this pair of starter sets, which actually means that 2 people can get into the game at the same time with all the stuff at a pretty affordable way. And I know that if you click this, it takes you straight through to the Wayland Games website. Yeah, this is one I've got coming, because actually that's a good price to start a game for 1 fleet. And they've got the next one coming as well, which is pretty cool. You get a good mix of ships. And I'm looking forward to getting this onto the table. Okay, so a pretty good year for 2025. A new edition of a fair few games there, and some older games producing some really good stuff. Obviously, next year is going to bring all sorts, or shall I say this year is going to bring all sorts of wargaming stuff. I am very hyped for that. We already know a bunch of things that are going to land this year that I'm pretty excited for, but I'll get to that in another video. For now, let me know what you think of everything we've talked about today, and what other things dropped in sci-fi wargaming in 2025 that you thought was awesome and that I've missed out. Because, hey, if it's not on the list, it means I've missed it, probably. And I want to know, because more wargaming is more better. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back soon with more wargaming content. Happy gaming.